Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have a powerhouse panel prepared. And Ted, this is a very different panel today for a couple special reasons.
What a way to start off the event, Sarah. And we're so honored to ring in the new year and welcome Steve Greenfield, the general partner at Automotive Ventures, and also our great friend Brian Kramer, EVP of Dealer Growth and Success at Cars Commerce, and introduce our new intern at the Fixed Ops Roundtable from Northwood University, the winner of the intern competition, Stephen Hackbarth. Brian, Stephen, and Stephen, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Great being here. And Stephen, very nice to meet you and good performance. Nice way to win.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and network with professionals like yourself. I'm really excited for everything to come.
All right. So with that, Stephen, I'm going to ask you to get things started. And I know you have a few questions for the gentleman on the panel to lead us off.
Yeah, of course. So my first question will go to you, Steve. I was just very curious, with looking on to Automotive Ventures, what innovations in service are you feeling most excited about right now?
Yeah, so I think that's an easy answer given just the momentum behind AI. I think we're just got in the very, very early innings of what we're going to see unlocking all kinds of potential. But whether that's the technician when they're under the car making better decisions, coordination back to the parts department, so they aren't waiting for parts and they're ensuring the parts that they need are in stock. Helping service writers, we're seeing applications, for example, that help service writers do their work the day before to better prepare for the day of. Reaching out to customers, confirming appointments, making sure parts are in stock, these kinds of things. And then most readily, we're seeing, a lot of phone call, email, text handling, chat handling by AI to make sure that no calls are any longer dropped by dealers, even after hours. A much better net promoter score overall for consumers that are trying to schedule time or check status of their vehicle in the fixed ops department. I think we're only starting to see that. I think the next evolution of that is going to be this year around really mining the CRM to find customers in there who might have outstanding work, might not have been in for a while, and being much more proactive. I think the best dealers in America are proactive, but it's only a slim minority that are really proactive with their customer base. And I think AI is going to unlock all kinds of potential. So all of that net should mean that dealers are running more efficiently, i.e., doing more with fewer employees or the existing employees they have, and driving more profitability, the right kind of profitability to the bottom line.
Steve Greenfield, as a follow-up, next week at the NADA show in Las Vegas, will AI continue to be the dominant theme as we look into the crystal ball?
Yeah, I had a chance to look over the sort of exhibitors, and I think dealers are going to get, their heads are going to be spinning from the number of new AI applications and product features that are offered. So yeah, I think this is going to be the year where, AI is going to be the most buzzworthy term. I think dealers are going to have a hard time really discriminating between the signal and the noise because there's going to be a lot of noise. Really being focused on business metrics and what they want to drive to ensure that they can cut through all of this. But yeah, get ready, dealers, that when we see you on the floor, exhibit floor next week at NADA, there's going to be a lot of buzz around AI.
Very good. And Stephen, I know we're going to see Brian Kramer as well when we go out there.
Yeah, and I love what you said about being proactive. I kind of have a follow-up question about the idea of being proactive and not reactive, with whether it goes to technology or process. And Brian, this question goes for you too. But what advice do you give fixed ops leaders who want this innovation and new technology, but might fear disrupting what already works and sort of the already process that they have implemented? So,
do you want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So I think that Steve said it extremely well when he said there's a lot of noise and it's tough to see the signal within the noise. And I think, fixed ops directors are typically really pragmatic, and there's been so many silver bullets, so much snake oil. They've seen it so many times before. Everybody says they're going to have this miracle elixir that's going to fix their fixed ops department, and it ends up breaking something else or causing friction with something else that's already working. So I think that the vendors that are very transparent, I think we're going into a whole different world with agentic transformation, where it's not a matter of let me rewind for a second. I think that the first thing that fixed ops directors need to do in order to capitalize on what you're mentioning there, Stephen, is they've got to get over the fact of replacing people. Everybody needs to just get that out of their mind. There's a percentage of your business that doesn't get done every single day. It might be 20%, 80%, whatever the number is on each individual item. AI can replace, if you're not executing on, your service load scheduling on your appointment scheduler, and you're 60% efficient, there's still 40% that AI can take over and help you with. And I think that it's a matter of how do we get every part of our business to 80% efficient, so that there's 80% of our people are focusing on the right things, and we're handling the rest of it with AI, or vice versa. But that agentic handoff and measuring what worked, what didn't work. I think that everybody is so looking for the easy button. And I would highly advise every fixed ops director to avoid that and to ask this question instead. When it doesn't work, what happens? When it doesn't work, do I fine tune it and train it like a person? And I sit down, I coach them, but instead you're going to be going through and saying, okay, next time this happens, this is what you do. Or am I going to say, you know what, a human can do that better. I don't need to give complex tasks to AI. That's human work. But I do need to be okay taking the simple, redundant, mindless tasks off of people and be okay handing that off to AI. And I think that transformation is what's going to enable fixed ops directors to not worry about, breaking what's already working and be able to move ahead.
Very well said. Thank you so much. And Steve, do you have any ideas about, any startups that might be out there that are exciting and that you would encourage people to maybe embrace and sort of get over that fear and being pragmatic about it?
Yeah, sure. So without naming any names, unless of course you want me to name names, there are a number of companies out there that are handling phone calls now. And I think all of them are providing really good, tangible value. You talk to the dealers that are using them, and they go from, in some cases, not answering the phones at all after hours to now answering 100% of all the calls after hours, and ensuring that getting the consumer down the path that they want to get to, right? So whether that's getting work scheduled, checking if their vehicle's available, or even paying for their vehicle, all of the above. There's a number of different solutions out there. Happy to share with folks if they want. One of the companies that, as Ted knows, we invested in, our first company we invested in 5 years ago is WarCloud. Very practical use of automating the warranty processing claims back to the OEM for franchise dealers, and it's doing extremely well. They'll be on the floor next week with Kurt Warner. If people want to come by and get a signed football, let me know. We can get that set up for you as well next week. But I think we're just scratching the surface. We're seeing a lot of companies now using AI to really focus on specific pain points, as Brian's kind of laid out within fixed ops. And I think it's going to be an exciting show to see the technologies that we come across next week.
And Brian Kramer, on the same wavelength, it would seem that fixed ops is the perfect place to deploy AI, because we could take advantage as a dealer of all the metrics of that resource of all the customers and the database that historically, I think, Sarah, we heard the expression spray and pray was the approach with a lot of these things. And Brian, now it would seem fixed ops is the center stage, if you will, for those things.
Yes, specifically when it comes to marketing and when it comes to traffic generation and when it comes to experience. Right now, every AI search engine's using an algorithm, and it's EEAT. Google's been using it for a long time. But what that stands for is this. It's E for experience, E for expertise, A for authoritativeness, and T for trustworthiness. So all of those roll up, and each one of those is different, right? So we're seeing this on Dealer Inspire websites. We're seeing this in all forms of search, as we're looking at what dealers are doing really well, which dealers are struggling, which dealers have fallen off a cliff and they don't know why. And in most cases, this is why. So I'll give you a couple quick examples. Experience. If you say you provide a 60-minute oil change on your website, right? And you do most of the time. But then AI now can read Reddit, it can read Dealer Rater, it can read the Nextdoor app, and on Twitter X, the conversations that are happening between people in the threads, which this wasn't a thing before. And now Reddit is taking off with this user-generated content. If that doesn't match up, that's the fact checker, right? So if somebody's saying, multiple people are saying it's 2.5 hours, it dings you for experience. Your experience is not what it says it is. It also dings you for trustworthiness. If you don't put your technicians with their master certified, their star certified, their world-class General Motors technicians, whatever it is, and you're not talking about that, when it's looking for the best technicians for diagnostic work, you're not going to come up in a search. And this has never been that way before. I didn't do it because I didn't want my people to get recruited, but now it's so expensive if you don't do that. Authoritativeness. Yes. If you are putting a lot of third-party, validation on your website, then you're not the authority, they are. So you need to spend a lot more time in your SPS service pricing menus. Make sure that you can, check on tires, you can check on parts availability, you can do all these things. If you have to go offline, or if this is notorious, it's bad on sales, but it's really bad in service. Call for price, call for details. Those two phrases are the kiss of death when it comes to AI-based search on ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. Those are UX, user experience, deal killers. And trustworthiness. If all of those things aren't matching up, it bangs you for trust. So a couple of things. You can't buy your way out of this long term. You have to fix those core fundamentals, and you have to find, for instance, on trustworthiness, if your name, address, phone number on your website doesn't match your Google business profile, it doesn't match your Facebook page, and I'm talking just the difference between, dealer brand, Toyota of whatever city versus Toyota Scion of whatever city. I saw it last week. It's costing a couple dealers a fortune. Wow. As well as not setting up their phone numbers correctly. You can have dynamic phone numbers, but if they're not set up the right way, I won't go down the rabbit hole on that. Almost no dealer, every dealer has different tracking numbers all over the place. That's confusing to these AI engines, and it dings you for trust versus a dealer that has a static number in those instances. So we're going into a different world, but we're also going to a different world where there's solutions that can find those answers in seconds, provided that a dealer is going to take action. And to your point, Ted, I think that fixed ops directors, their main superpower is execution, because they don't want to have all the noise. They just want to tune into signal, to Steve's point, and they just want to execute.
Brian, as a follow-up, would it be safe to say that AI search now has replaced traditional search on the web?
Not yet, but it will shortly. So I think it's like 35% at the moment. Okay. But there's phases to this, right? So Google AI overviews has surpassed regular SEO and SEM, and that's already happened. And that's like 63% of the searches. Wow. But the trajectory that AI-based search is on, and Steve can speak. I don't know what he's seen. I see numbers from June to Q2 to Q3, but it's going to happen in 2026. And there's not really a lot of time to prepare. And you really, it's not one of these things where you can just pay some widget to go on your website and fix something, at least not today. But you have to be able to get your house in order, because this is a long-term play. This is a customer lifetime value equation, not a month-to-month sprint.
Steve Greenfield, this seems to be a fundamental change for our industry. There's been a few over the last 30, 40, 50 years, but this one, Steve, seems to be really big.
Yeah, so for young people like Steven, they won't remember the beginning of the internet. Before there was Google, right? We had Yahoo and Lycos and a bunch of different search engines. But if you remember back then, there was a lot of gaming, sort of SEO tactics, black hat tactics, to stuff keywords on pages and all kinds of ways to reverse engineer Google's algorithm. Every time Google came up with an algorithm update, this whole cottage industry of these black hat SEO folks would go out there and try to figure out how we make the pages index on the Google algorithm. Well, we're on the cusp of that. Brian's talking about the same thing now. As a greater percentage of traffic comes from ChatGPT to your website, we are going from, as Brian said, from search engines to answer engines, meaning that in the past, we would search on Google and see 10 links and decide which link we were going to click on. Now, increasingly, as you trust these mobile phones in our pockets, we're going to just be asking it a question, probably longer questions than we would ask in the past, more detailed, and try to prompt the right answer, but we may grow to really trust that answer. So you've got one shot to make sure that, if I'm a dealer, that I show up on that search in my local market. To Brian's point, you've got to have, credibility and authenticity and expertness, right? So all of that's going to weigh into sort of how these things are going to show up. But I think dealers need to be relying on a partner, just like they did 20 years ago with, creating the right way to make sure that your data shows up on these Google searches. Now we're going to be thinking about how we make sure that we stay relevant. When someone puts a ChatGPT search in my local market, I surely better show up in that search. And I do think that we have a big gap between where we are now and achieving that goal.
Sarah, Steve and I have been asking all the questions, so
yeah.
Well, go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when you guys made great nuanced points about that. I was wondering what was one meaningful change that you could make to sort of take advantage of that new trend where that the consumers looking for answer engines as opposed to search engines. What's one meaningful change that dealers can make to capitalize on that?
Go ahead, Brian. Take that one.
You're asking all the good questions today, Stephen. That's a tough one and a nuanced bunch of answers to that. What I would say is look at everything through the consumer's lens and get on to all of the AI search engines and ask questions in incognito mode so that your browsing history doesn't affect it, and look at it as if you were a client, and even just ask it, what are the 10 most commonly asked questions, search queries. That's what I do for service, for parts, for maintenance, diagnostic, all of those things. And then ask it, where does my ABC Motors show up in that search? Or what does, like I live in Southwest Florida, and I just bought a Toyota for my daughter, recently. And I said, I was going to go to my alma mater, but I said, what's the best place? Where's the best place to buy a Toyota in Southwest Florida? Where's the best place to get my vehicle serviced in Southwest Florida? Now, when I went in for a bulletin, software update that needed to be done on her Tacoma, I went in and I obviously know people there because I used to work there, but it led me to somebody who was new there that I didn't know as a service advisor, and it scheduled that appointment and served that person up based on the reviews that were happening and what clients were saying online. It's not to say that somebody else wasn't giving a better experience, but what the AI's perception of this gentleman who had moved down from Boston was, this is who you should, not only should you go to this dealership, which is my old dealership, you should work with this person, which is kind of what happened when I bought the vehicle, because I wanted to mystery shop it, and it narrowed it down. But it also very, very importantly told me one dealer not to do business with. Mm-hmm. And so AI will also do that. It will say this, you be careful with this brand. If you're going to look at this brand, you should go to the other coast. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty strong. You'd think it's slander or libel or whatever, but it's just pulling the data and aggregating it in that way. The other thing that I don't think that many people think about is that, we talk about it a lot in sales and we talk about it in other parts of the business. But if you, like with trade values, if you're not giving trade values, it's really hurting the whole ecosystem, not just the sales department, it's hurting the service department in terms of relevance and transparency. But it does the same thing to the sales department if you're not giving transparent tire quotes. If there's friction and as these agents are scraping your sites, which is happening today, and they're determining who's the easiest to do business with. And if Jiffy Lube is easier to get a price and everything on oil change and schedule an appointment, it's going to serve them up more than a traditional dealer. If a tire, whatever, you pick the third-party tire provider, if they're easy, more friction, frictionless, and they give more information, and it's not just I'll land the plane on this. You're not actually appealing, Ted, when you say what about AI search? The one thing that has changed is that for the first time in history, last month, AI bot and agent search surpassed human search. So it was like 52%. So over half of the internet traffic today is bots and agents. That's the new customer. Humans online are less of your customer than appealing to theirs. So you have to feed data into your website. It's aggregating your data. Your website is becoming a ghost kitchen for agent Uber, buyers and sellers. So if you're not appealing with schema and their type of language that AI likes it'll skip. And what everybody needs to worry about, and I would be terrified about this if I was in retail. Used to worry about, all the business that was going for, oil changes, tires, and to independent service providers. If they do, because AI can turn them into a coder or a programmer, if these independent service providers figure out how to optimize themselves online, that's really going to level the playing field. So dealers need to get ahead of that. And you need to make sure that of the big national brands that are doing oil changes and tires, that they're getting ahead of them in terms of search, because that's, in my mind, that's the new frontier.
Sarah, it is a new frontier.
It is, and this is so much incredible information. I mean, between Steve and Brian, gosh, there's so much to take home. I mean, 2026 is going to be a busy year for fixed operations.
Indeed.
Yeah, we could see it now. Gentlemen, thank you for all you do for the industry, and in particular, fixed operations. And Steve, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these new innovations next week, seeing both you and Brian at the NADA show in Las Vegas. And I know, just to kind of follow up on something that Steve Hackbarth asked earlier, anything in particular? You mentioned the one warranty company. Anything else we should be keeping our eye on? Maybe not in terms of a company, but in terms of an area of growth that we may not be thinking about or aware of yet, that you may be aware of?
I mean, I'll start, Brian. I mean, it all comes down to sort of ensuring that your data is structured and clean. So, I mean, it sounds boring and it's a fundamental building block, but all of the stuff that Brian talked about in unlocking, it really comes from ensuring that, one, you got visibility into how you're performing online, but also just ensuring your data is clean. So I think there will continue to be this theme at NADA around ensuring that you've got control of your data, you own your data, it's clean, and it's formatted in a way where we can make sure that you do put your best foot forward, and these chatbots can access it.
Brian?
Well, what Steve just said is the most important thing. And I should have answered that when Stephen was saying, what should dealers do now? I mean, obviously you need to search yourself, but that's right there where it needs to start. There's been too many DMS rolling appointments for decades where you've got all these duplicate entries. The data's not clean. I used to see it in my customer waiting lounge where they would say, Denise, and the husband was there because it was in her name, but they didn't ask him for his name during check-in. They ran it with the VIN, but his cell phone number was not attached to that account. And they were texting his wife, and she was, working at a hospital and couldn't answer. And he's been waiting for 2.5 hours. He's upset about the wait time. And it all comes down to the data not being clean, what Steve just said. I mean, those little things will paper cutting dealers to death today. And every dealer should begin there. It's not sexy, but it is sexy once you get it done and you unlock what it can do for you. As far as what I think the other things to keep in mind, I would say stop by the Cars Commerce booth. We're going to have some exciting big announcements that obviously can't get into now, but we'll be announcing at the booth.
All right. Okay. Very good. There you have it, everybody. Brian Kramer, EVP at Cars Commerce. Steve Greenfield, General Partner, Automotive Ventures, author of the book, The Future of Automotive Retail, with us here today with Stephen Hackbarth from Northwood University. Sarah, I think we got to buckle up. There's going to be a lot in store, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I can tell. I can feel a lot coming.
We're only in January, Ted. There's going to be a lot of really incredible innovation ahead for 2026.
Everybody, Brian Kramer and Steve Greenfield, thank you for being with us here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.